These eating strategies are super powerful for dropping visceral belly fat, but everyone focuses on morning routines and morning strategies. When it comes to visceral fat, it's all about turning off cortisol. Visceral fat is a cortisol issue more than anything. It's cortisol being spiked from stress with insulin mixing with it, and it causes this storage of fat around our organs, and it's a problem. Morning routines are great, but what if the real magic to dropping serious visceral belly fat was how we would actually wind down and reduce our cortisol in the evening? You see, most of us go through our day with high cortisol in the evening, and that makes it so that our entire sleep patterns and sleep architecture and diurnal rhythms of cortisol are completely out of whack. So then when we are in prime time fat burning mode, our body doesn't even know it. That right there makes it feel like you're trying everything and you're working harder and harder and harder, but you're getting nowhere. As a matter of fact, the harder you work, it could actually be counterproductive and making you store more. So in this video, we're going to cover 12 nighttime strategies, but I don't expect you to do all 12. I don't want you to. As a matter of fact, I want you to grab one or two from each category that we're going to talk about. That way you can choose the ones that resonate with you. So in this video, we will talk about habits, and that'll be category 1. Habits and lifestyle things that you can do, plus one ritual that I think is really important. Secondly, we'll talk about supplements. I don't want to make you have to load up on a bunch of supplements, so you can pick one or two that resonate with you, but I have one that is sort of the emergency switch. If your cortisol gets really high, it's something you can keep on hand that literally blunts cortisol in an emergency situation. Then we're going to talk diet. Dietary things that you can do, things you could eat before bed, how you could structure your meals. Plus, I have a mineral trick that works really well, and I'll sneak in one extra thing that you can do right before bed that feels really good, that'll help you sleep better. So let's jump right into this category 1. The first thing that you can do is grounding. 5 to 15 minutes standing on the grass or the dirt or literally concrete. Concrete will actually conduct. Asphalt will not. Here's how it works. There was a study published in Journal Environmental and Public Health, and it found that when subjects would stand just on the grass, it would reduce inflammation, they would ultimately sleep better, and when they measured salivary cortisol, their cortisol levels were lower. What's going on here? It's actually pretty simple. Believe it or not, we're designed to connect with the earth. I know it sounds crazy, but it also sounds crazy when you say that humans emit EMF. It also sounds crazy that the electromagnetic field of the earth can actually influence biology. These are things that may sound crazy, but they're very real and they're very legit in the physics world. We just don't always look at them. So standing on the dirt with bare feet or concrete can allow for free electrons to come into the body and actually neutralize oxidative stress. But most importantly, for the context of visceral fat, lowers cortisol and helps you sleep. One of the reasons you have visceral fat is because you're not sleeping well and you're chronically elevated with stress. This is a simple one. Number 2 is a vagus nerve reset. Now you need to do this particularly uniquely. This is done where you box breathe. Okay, you box breathe with like a 4-4-4-4. So 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhale, 4 seconds hold. But there's one operative thing. We're doing a vagus nerve reset. So when you exhale through the nose and you hum. This is not something that I made up. Huberman's talked about this. People have been talking about this for decades, but it just sounds weird. And you do 3 to 5 minutes of it. They've even come out with things that are like vagus nerve stimulators, and they work. Being able to stimulate the vagal nerve by humming and breathing actually lowers cortisol. And I know you're thinking, how is this going to help me burn fat? I am telling you, when you reduce cortisol, you change the entire dynamic of your metabolism. The next thing that you can do, and this is one that might be easy regardless whether you choose this one or not. There was a study and actually found that although blue light is something that we want to limit at night, what's more important is to actually limit overall brightness. So on your phone, just turn the brightness down. But most importantly, what you have around you, turn the brightness down. The ambient light is the most important thing. So it's more important than the blue light. You could watch TV, but have the lights down or have the actual intensity of the TV turned down. This makes a bigger difference than just the blue light itself. It's not good to have blue light, but the light intensity matters most. Now I promised you a ritual. This one is cool. This is a pre-meal shot of apple cider vinegar. Now, this does some powerful things. There was a study that found the acetic acid actually triggers AMPK, so it actually puts you in more of a fat-burning mode, but it also reduces the glucose spike and the insulin spike. Not that fascinating, but it is important, particularly at night. Apple cider vinegar is most important at night because when cortisol levels are high, that's the last time you want insulin to be high. So if you can actually just have some apple cider vinegar and you delay the insulin spike, you make it so that insulin and cortisol aren't having to be together, because that is an unnatural situation that should not exist. When you have high cortisol, it should be because you're starving and you're looking for food, not because you're stressed about your boss and you're stuffing your face at the same time. That's not a good recipe for success. That stores visceral fat, that makes a fatty liver, that can trigger insulin resistance. Now I want to get into the supplement category. You could pick any of these, you could pick all of them. They would also work just fine together, but I'm also trying to be cognizant of cost here. Glycine is number one. 3 grams of glycine. There is a study published in Sleep and Biological Rhythms that found that glycine isn't just an amino acid. It acts as a neuromodulator and an actual neurotransmitter, forcing the body into a more calm GABAergic state. Gamma-aminobutyric acid is the tone that we want the brain to be tilted towards at nighttime, that calm, cool, copacetic feeling. But it does something else that's really good for fat loss. We're finding that glycine increases growth hormone pulsing. So at night, we have our pulses of growth hormone. Growth hormone isn't just stuff that gives you a big forehead and makes you look like a Neanderthal. It's something that actually helps you burn fat. It's one of the most lipolytic compounds that the body can produce. High levels of growth hormone signal to the body to release free fatty acids to be burned. And fortunately, if you're doing all the right things, it's going to help you liberate fat from the visceral fat region so you burn it better. But remember, if your sleep is out of whack, none of this stuff matters. Glycine is the most powerful, and I can speak from my own experience, thing that you can do to help sleep. It works great. It calms the body. It cools the extremities, so it triggers a natural increase in melatonin. Not only that, it desensitizes the signals from the bladder to the brain, so you have less instance of needing to wake up to pee. That is important. Now, I promised you an emergency switch, something you could use if you ran into really deep trouble and you had an extra stressful day. I don't recommend taking this all the time, but use it when cortisol is high and you know it's high. Phosphatidylserine, 100 to 300 milligrams. This works as your emergency switch. It acts upon the membrane of a cell, and it can actually blunt cortisol. There was a study that found that it completely normalized the cortisol response to a high stress event, but it seemed to not do it if it was used consistently. So this is one you may want to keep on hand. And you may want to say, you know what? I came home, spouse is yelling at me. It's not a good day. I'm stressed. I also almost got fired. I also almost ran over the neighbor's cat. It's been a bad day. So phosphatidylserine it up, kind of blunt the cortisol response, but do it on those days only. It also can balance what's called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So you have an unnatural spike in cortisol that happens at night. What this will do is it'll throw off your next day's cortisol rhythm. So in the morning, your cortisol levels are high. And this is when you can actually tap into fat burning. When cortisol's high in the morning in a fasted state, that is ideal. That is when we can burn fat. That is when we can capitalize on it. But if we have messed up rhythms where we got stressed out, cortisol went high at night, it might dip in the morning. And then we're not capitalizing on visceral fat burning. So it's interesting how cortisol is our best friend and our worst enemy. We just need to manage it. Magnesium is the next one. Okay, 400 to 500 milligrams of dimagnesium malate. Okay, no affiliation. There's a company called Jigsaw that has a really good one. Also, magnesium glycinate, if you want magnesium mixed with glycine, does 2 things. 1, it increases insulin sensitivity, but 2, it actually binds to what's called the NMDA receptor, making it so you stay calmer. So it actually makes you so you need less insulin, and it reduces cortisol. It's working on the 2 pathways that are most important for visceral fat. The mineral trick that I mentioned earlier, I said I'd talk about one thing you can do in the morning: salt in the morning. I know this is an evening routine thing, but when you get up in the morning, start your day with water and salt. This is old school 2012 stuff. It works. That helps your adrenals. That helps the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis get the system moving. Get a little bit of salt. It acts as like a signal transductor and gets things moving. A lot of times I'll start my day with electrolytes. I put a link down below for the one that I use. It's called LMNT because it's more sodium focused. It's 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 potassium, 60 magnesium. Very powerful, but very tasty stuff. They have a sparkling version. They have a lemonade salt that is next level. Tastes like I'm drinking a lemonade, and it's legit. Okay, like tastes good, doesn't break a fast. You could drink it all day if you're fasting, and it tastes delicious, but you're getting the benefit too, the electrolytes. Plus, that link down below gets you a free sample variety pack. Again, I'm a big fan of them. I love their stuff. I think you should try it. I think you should take advantage of that free sample pack because you get like all their leading flavors. if you get any purchase. So with any purchase, you get the free pack. So that's drinklmnt.com/Thomas down below. Now in a moment, I'm going to talk about this thing that you can do right before bed, this sort of calming, feel-good kind of thing. But we need to talk about the diet a little bit. Remember, you can take little bits and pieces from this. There's one thing that's even quite paradoxical, something you wouldn't have expected. But first, let's get into some basics. You need to have a clean break from big meals 3 hours before bed. Okay, you have a 100 to 200 calorie window that you can have some slack with, and I'll talk about exactly how that works in a paradoxical way in just a second. But carbohydrates need to really stop 3 hours before bed. That's the main rule. 3 hours before bed, no more carbohydrates. Number two, if you decide to have some carbohydrates with your dinner, I highly recommend you book into your dinner. At the end of dinner, have an immediate dessert with a bowl of berries. Okay, particularly blueberries. Here's something interesting. There was a study that found that the anthocyanins in blueberries actually trigger AMPK, puts you into a deficit faster, and can actually restore metabolic health and actually help you burn visceral fat. So it's the anthocyanins, these powerful polyphenols, that we sometimes just forget, but they're super powerful. So berries with dinner, even though it seems kind of weird, treat it as a dessert. Now there's a backwards protein hack that actually makes sense. And Dr. Mike Ormsby from Florida State, we talked about this on my channel, and I didn't believe him at first, but he sold me on it and he showed me the research. A small, low calorie, 100, maybe 200 tops, but really like 100 calorie protein only snack right before bed. Cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, low fat, non-fat, whatever, just protein. This actually increases your metabolic rate in the morning. So there's a thermic effect, but it also seems to do something metabolically to where you have more metabolic rate activated in the morning. So what this does is not only does it help preserve muscle potentially, but when you go to work out in the morning, if that's how you roll, your metabolic rate is slightly higher and you're still fasted. So it's like you had protein and it did something that made it so that your metabolic rate is churning more. So now when you work out, you're getting that much more fat loss in a fasted state. It's a very powerful tool and it does work. Not to mention, it's an extra way to just get more protein in, which we know at this point is extremely important. Now, the next dietary thing that you can do, psyllium husk with your protein if you're having it at night, like mix it into yogurt, or just have a little bit of psyllium husk right after dinner. Okay, this is a short chain fatty acid thing. When you actually give your body psyllium husk, it converts this, it breaks it down, it ferments into what's called a short chain fatty acid, which actually changes the next day. It changes how your body uses glucose and it changes fat oxidation the next day. Because what happens is these short chain fatty acids that your body creates in the intestine, they don't just stay in the intestine. They actually go into the bloodstream and they act as a signal, a beacon that says we have a healthy gut, and they actually have an anti-inflammatory effect, which means you send better insulin signals and you receive a signal from fat better and actually are able to metabolize fat and actually have better fat oxidation. So doing this makes a big difference. And these are just little things that you can do. And then the next day, intensity in a fasted state for short amounts. We want to keep the stress under control, but we want to keep it direct. We want to keep hard, intense workouts, but we want to keep them short, okay? The goal is getting your body and your mind back on track with lower levels of cortisol. And you don't have to do all these. You take little bits of them. If you want to do all of them, it's a pretty easy routine, but I expect you to take this in stride. And lastly, the thing I promised, a warm shower before bed actually makes a difference. So many people say, do a cold shower. It's going to increase brown adipose tissue. Sure. But it also stresses you out a little bit before bed. A hot shower, as hot as you can handle it, will actually allow your body to be forced to cool down, which signals to your body to increase melatonin and to allow you to go to sleep. So that warm, comfortable shower for 2 minutes is actually doing your cortisol a solid service. Now, I did a video here that talks about this dark truth about avocados. It was kind of freaky. Avocados are a good food and you should eat them, but I think you should know this about avocados because it's kind of a dirty little secret that hopefully it can help you navigate with this video. So check it out. And as always, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you tomorrow.